Hey listeners, Hannah here. We wanted to give a trigger warning for this episode On My Way, which features cyberbullying, suicidal ideation, and attempted suicide. If you are in any way triggered by these conversations, feel free to skip this episode. We totally understand. Thanks to our special guest, Erika, who you'll actually meet in a moment, for sharing her expertise as a licensed counselor and for giving us lots of insight through these tough topics. Enjoy the episode.
Last week, it was Valentine's Day. Krosky wore a gorilla suit. We found out Simon the Apostle might be gay. And we met Joe Hart, who's Samuel from the Glee Project. And that's what you missed on Gleeboot.
Gleeboot.
Yay.
Well done. I forgot that was only last week.
Yeah, the gorilla suit. But yeah, you guys are in a new place. That was a big change from last episode.
We have since moved, listeners.
New recording studio.
Yes. And, like our entire apartment, not just the recording studio. Because the recording studio is our room. So, well, my room.
Alyssa's room.
I was like,
we do not share a bedroom.
There was another big change.
My room. We actually, that's really loud, sorry. I feel like we have upgraded. The apartment's a little bit smaller, but we now have central air.
Whoop, whoop.
And we both have our own bathrooms.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
that's a big upgrade.
We both have parking spaces now.
Mm-hmm.
Your guys' parking situation was a nightmare. You remember that time when I came to visit you and people were lighting off fireworks in the parking and we're just like, can we just get by to the only parking space available? Thank you.
Yes.
And they wouldn't move.
I forgot about that.
That's the same weekend that we had 3 earthquakes.
Yeah. I experienced my first earthquake along with you guys and it was weird.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was... Well, let's see. 2020 was 17 years, so that was about 19 years ago.
Yes.
Oh. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The weekend this podcast was born.
Ago.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, our birthday.
I totally forgot about that.
It's such a monumental. Our podcast created earthquakes. It literally shook the earth. That's how excited the world was for our podcast.
So yeah, welcome to Gleeboot, the show where we get drunk and talk about rebooting Glee one episode at a time. I'm Cullen.
Alyssa.
And I'm Hannah. And we have a very special guest, my junior prom date and friend from high school, Erika.
Hi. Happy to be here. Yay. This is my first podcast. This is pretty sick, so I'm excited.
This is exciting for all of us because we get to meet Hannah's prom date.
Yeah.
I remember still how we figured out that I was going to be your date. It was, we were sitting in the lunchroom that wasn't really a lunchroom because it was only vending machines and tables. And we went to a janky ass school. And it was like a month before prom? And you, Brianna, and Kyle were like, prom, yay. And I was like, me?
Because you were 2 years behind us. And you're like, I can't go till next year. And I was like, you can come with me.
I was a freshman, yeah. I actually went all
that's right.
to high school.
That's
I'm
right.
that bitch. So, yeah, so... And then we had a sleepover at your place. It was awesome.
Yeah.
That actually sounds like really fun.
It was so much fun.
I think I talked about, so I have actually mentioned you on the podcast before because we did a prom episode.
Yeah, with Kyle.
And so I think I remember talking about how we went to IHOP. We basically ditched prom halfway through and went to IHOP. And I ordered the dumbest thing you can order at IHOP at 11 p.m. An omelet. Don't do it. That's so stupid. Order pancakes.
Purple, I went to IHOP tonight for dinner.
Oh my God. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow. Full circle.
Yeah.
Fate. It's fate.
Yeah, what is your relationship with the show Glee? Your Glee journey?
It's a rocky relationship, I'd have to say. It started off real strong at the beginning. Weirdly enough, I watched it with my dad. Probably not the best choice, but that's how it started. And then slowly but surely, I became obsessed with it. Kyle, who was in that prom episode, we went to the movies to see the Glee Live movie together, and he brought his foam finger, and he was wearing his Warbler t-shirt. I remember that. My mom drove us. And yeah, I stuck with it up until probably the New York. Once they started going to college, I was just like, I can't relate, and this is getting weirder.
Believe it or not,
a little bit, but then it sucked me back in with this whole Netflix thing. So it's a rocky relationship.
Yeah, lots of ups and downs.
So many ups and downs, just like this episode, man.
Oh, I texted Cullen probably about like near the end. I was asking questions, and then I literally was like, Cullen, what were they thinking? So yeah, rocky.
Very much so.
I literally just watched this episode like 20 minutes ago.
Oh my God, you and I switched places. Because I watch it like an hour before we record, so it's fresh. I watched it this afternoon, and yeah, wow.
Mm-hmm.
It's
what
interesting.
Are we drinking?
Yes. Yeah, let's talk about that.
And what will we continue to drinking as we talk about this podcast? Because wow.
What are you drinking? Because that looks really interesting.
Me?
Yes.
A Shirley Temple on the rocks.
Oh.
The rocks is tequila.
Wait, aren't Shirley Temples not alcoholic?
Yes. So I added tequila.
You just said that.
Yeah.
I really like to piss off my ex-boyfriend a lot, which is why he's my ex-boyfriend. And I would always say I wanted things on the rocks as a way of me saying it's alcoholic. So now he was very, very annoyed with that. So now I've got a Shirley Temple on the rocks.
That's amazing. I'm drinking this wine that I literally picked because of the bottle. I got that from my boyfriend. He's obsessed with like what bottles look like. It's called Dearly Beloved, and it's kind of got like a sugar skull kind of look, but it's like floral, and it's Forever Red, so it's a very nice red blend, and it is very good. Very good. I think it was like $11 too. So
yeah, that's a cool label. Yeah. I like that. I like it when companies put a lot of effort into their designs.
Yeah, I mean, it's what got me to buy it. That and the price, but
and the price. I am drinking a whiskey sour. Ooh. And it's very strong. And it has 2 ounces of whiskey, 3/4 ounces of lime juice, and 3/4 ounces of maple syrup in it.
Of course, it has maple syrup.
I don't have simple syrup. I need to buy some, but I don't have any right now. Yeah. So I use maple syrup instead.
Can we call it the Canadian version with a Canadian twist?
Canadian whiskey sour.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How does one do a Canadian accent?
Cullen does a pretty good one.
Oh, I know, on the spot.
Say a boot.
Yeah, a boat.
A boot, yeah.
Go to the house. A boat. They say they're.
Suki's playing with her mouse, and I have a bunch of plastic bags all over my floor from moving. So
she's in heaven.
She is making some noises.
Yeah, she's gonna have a lot to say about this episode. I can guarantee it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm drinking Stella again.
Very nice. The Cullen staple.
I bought a whole bunch of them, and I've just been going through them episode by episode, week by week.
So I actually was listening to the Michael episode a little bit today, and it was another Friday night recording. And it was when Allyssa was like, "Why are you drinking it warm?" And then you're like, "I'm not. I just leave them out on the counter and then I put them in the fridge as I need them." And then you were like, oh, okay, well, I guess my respect for you went up a little bit higher. And I was on a walk, like out around my complex, and I laughed out loud so hard. I like cackled in the middle of like the street. Yeah.
I'm glad we could make you laugh, Hannah.
Now anytime I drink a Stella, that's what I'm gonna think of.
Yeah. So Erika, did you take the BuzzFeed quizzes?
I did.
Whoop, whoop.
I
Tell
did.
us who you are and who you're dating.
I am Finn Hudson.
Oh my gosh, you're like our 7th Finn Hudson. Oh my
There's
gosh.
so many
Yeah.
friends.
I think it's because I don't care enough. I think that's what did it. No, I was just like as passive as possible because I'm like, there's no winning. So, yeah, I'm Finn. I'm a kind person and a leader, which is fitting. So it worked. And my boyfriend is Kurt.
Oh, okay. Very
We got
nice.
his dream
Yeah,
from the first season.
I know. Now we're two stepbrothers kindling our love for each other.
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
That's such a fan fiction.
Yeah. Yeah. You're
I'm sure
living
there's
in a
like
fan fiction.
1,000 of those, but
Yes.
probably more.
So now let's talk about On My Way, written by Roberto Esquire Sacasa, who is the showrunner of Riverdale.
Oh, this makes so much
interesting.
sense now.
So this is where the craziness, got its origin. It started in Glee craziness, became Riverdale craziness, became shit that I consume weekly. I almost cried during the graduation episode.
Oh,
Riverdale.
oh, okay.
Oh my gosh.
Really?
I don't have. I'm so excited when it comes to Netflix. I'm like ready. I love trash TV. This is my favorite thing. I just want to say, as a licensed counselor, this episode made me want to hurt someone. Like, I was viscerally angry for the majority of it.
I was really confused by the messaging. It was just a constant like, okay, and then I was like, oh no.
Mm-hmm.
So in case listeners aren't aware, this episode deals with a suicide attempt, and not always very well.
No. I mean, like, it deals with a lot more than that, too. Like cyberbullying and suicide attempts and
Texting and driving.
Texting while driving.
texting while driving. Yes.
I very briefly, but it's there. It's a lot of messages just kind of jammed in there.
Plus regionals.
Plus regionals.
Just like thrown in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There is a lot going on in this episode.
There's like blackmail, basically like Photoshop, basically revenge porn blackmail.
Which I guess kind of could be in the cyberbullying category because that's what he was about to do.
Right, exactly. So that's the episode in a nutshell.
And the flash was there.
What storylines do we have?
So we have no storylines. We have one storyline, which is the whole episode.
Oh, okay.
Really? Okay, let's do this. Chronological order.
Yeah, there's no easy way to split them up.
No.
Because the episode is in like two different halves, basically.
Yeah, it's super chunky and it doesn't really flow well.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, so we open with Kurt and Rachel looking at wedding magazines. And she's like, oh, this one is so timeless. And Kurt is like, oh, timeless, that means you could wear it in like 5 or 7 years.
Doesn't he say 2 to 5 years?
Yeah.
I don't know. Years.
For what reason?
An amount of years later.
For what? Like what? You don't wear your wedding dress again.
No, he's saying that she should wait to get married for that.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. I missed that. I literally I got sidetracked by Sebastian being there.
Yeah.
He's always weird, always there. And then I think
He and Kurt don't get along because they're both trying to have the upper hand on lurking, and like there can only be one. There can only be one lurker.
Yeah, because Sebastian shows up and Kurt is like, why is he always here? We need to start going to a new place.
Yep.
I
feel like this is one of those times where like the show is poking fun at itself successfully.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Sebastian is like, Rachel, I have an engagement present for you. And it's a Photoshop picture of Finn in heels with like a small dick.
We don't actually
see that.
Yeah.
But she's like, it's not that small or brown.
Yeah, that was a startling statement for her to say. Okay.
I mean,
I don't know.
Was she just guessing?
No, so this means they have done stuff. They haven't had sex yet, but they've done stuff.
No, they've had sex. They did it in the episode called The First Time about having sex.
No, they didn't.
They didn't actually do it. I don't think anyone actually had sex in that episode, right?
No, so they don't have sex in time for West Side Story, but then afterwards they have sex because Rachel's like, I'm going to give you something nobody else is going to get.
Oh, ew.
Yeah, but didn't Finn like refuse at that point? Because he's like, I don't want to. I swear that he did. I feel like they never had sex.
They just didn't show it very well.
The First Time? I literally don't remember this.
They don't, because it's like very TV, very like cutaways, but...
Wait, is this the episode where they do all those shots? No, that was a West Side Story episode.
Yeah, they have sex.
No, they don't.
I am 100% certain that they have sex.
Let's see.
Because Kurt and Blaine have that weird before-after scene.
Yeah, no. Yes, they do. Because then they have that weird after scene where they're like in front of the fireplace, right? Something like that. Because Cullen's right. She then tells him he's special, and she knows this because she's going to give him something no one else will ever get, implying that she wants to have sex with him because she loves him. After having sex, they're seen smiling at each other on the floor afterwards.
No one smiles after the first time. No one.
Yeah, so I guess they did. I guess I just like completely blocked it out of my mind and was like, no, it didn't happen.
Is this the episode where we were talking about her getting the shits because he fed her food that wasn't vegan?
Yes.
Was that the vegan shits episode? Yeah, I did talk about. Yes, I think it was.
See, Hannah, you and I replaced this episode with the episode that we wanted.
Yes, we're like, it didn't happen. No, it would never happen.
She was too busy having diarrhea.
Oh, that's hilarious. Anyway.
So they've officially had sex, and she does, in fact, know what his penis looks like.
Okay. So I've done a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't like thinking about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm going to drink.
So Sebastian is like, don't perform at regionals or I'll post this everywhere. And she's like, this is show choir terrorism. And Kurt's like, you give a bad name to the entire gay community. And he's like, you give the gay community fashion that can normally only be found in Puerto Rican pride floats.
And there's like a back and forth of pointed barbed comments. Yeah.
And he's like, you're gonna say that you came down with the Asian bird flu or whatever Tina Blow and Wang had. And I'm like, another racist comment from Sebastian.
Yeah, he's garbage. And the episode kind of confirms it in a couple other ways too.
Yeah. So then they're back in the choir room. And Finn is like, I'm gonna beat this guy's ass, and Will's like, don't. I already contacted Dalton's headmaster. And then they're like, he's gonna do nothing, like he did when he tried to blind Blaine. Like they did nothing,
which doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, like that's literally assaulting a student, and whatever.
Yeah.
Logic doesn't exist.
I think this is different because in the beginning, Dalton was like this safe haven with no bullying, and now it's like the place that tolerates like literal assault.
Well, the biggest bully
Yeah.
is from Dalton right now.
Yeah.
Things really changed when Blaine left.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and so Rachel's like, we're not gonna negotiate with terrorists. I'm still gonna perform. And Finn's like, even though he's gonna post these pictures.
I literally have it quoted, Finn, I'm not going to negotiate with terrorists. Rachel to Finn about his photoshopped penis.
Yeah.
That was too good.
It's such an over-the-top Rachel line. And once again, she is caring about no one except for herself.
Yeah.
And it makes it especially difficult to take because they're supposed to be getting married.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, because he's like, you would do this even though he'll post these pictures of me? Like, how would you care about it? How would you like it if I made pictures of you like this? And she's like, well, like, don't you think I'll have to deal with the consequences of them because I'll be married to you?
That's...
This is...
And they're saying all of this in front of the show choir, their friends. So, like...
If you're going to have a conversation like this...
An argument?
Well, yes. If you're going to have an argument, like... I feel like responsible people in a healthy relationship would have this conversation...
Right.
Not in front of a bunch of other people.
Right, but is there healthy and is there privacy in Glee? No.
That's a great question.
No.
Is there healthy or is there privacy?
Nothing is healthy in this show.
Yeah. So then so Finn basically storms out because Rachel's like, it'll help if we win national or regionals, it will help me with my NIADA application. And he's like, yeah, I hope you get in. And he storms off.
That was such a terrible thing for her to say at the moment. Like, she has no people skills whatsoever. Like, you can think that, but you don't say it.
Yeah. But you know what? Finn's absolutely right to be upset about this because she's literally risking his reputation that could last forever. You know, if he tries to apply for a job and then they Google him and look, it's this weird sexual picture. Doesn't matter if it was like a prank or, literal blackmail. Someone's going to see it and they're going to just have a bad thought of him. So he's totally valid.
Mm-hmm.
And spoiler alert, he forgives her way too quickly, and that's some bullshit.
Yeah. Yep.
She just gets whatever she wants.
Well, the reason why he forgave her in the entire premise of this other part of the episode that we're going into is literally, I have so many words for this. I'm gonna hold on for a second. But it's very stupid.
Let's wait until we get to that section because I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Oh, I've got words. Yep.
So Sue has Quinn into her office and is like, I'm pregnant. And Quinn is like, I'm confused, but I'm happy for you.
Yeah, she's like, that's amazing. And confusing.
Okay.
I know that was a great line.
No one tell me if this is real. Okay, I feel like this is going to turn out to be a hysterical pregnancy.
Oh, I honestly don't remember.
Mm-mm.
Don't tell me.
It's true.
Oh, you don't know?
Actually,
I feel like because Sue is acting so strangely and she's so happy, and I feel like they're going to take it away from her because she's happy. I feel like they're going to turn it into a hysterical pregnancy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah,
okay,
honestly,
we'll
no.
find out. We'll see. This is my prediction.
And Quinn is like, because Sue is complaining about morning sickness, and Quinn is like, I ate saltines and I sucked lollipops. And she's like, oh, lollipops. And she's like, well, thank you, Q, for the fairly helpful advice and condescending tone.
Is that an actual thing where lollipops are supposed to help? Or is that just a Quinn thing?
I never want to find out.
Yeah, I don't know.
Some people don't even get morning sickness. And like, I know it's supposed to be different for everyone, but in general, saltines are supposed to help with nausea.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder if lollipops are specific to morning sickness.
I really liked the scene up until like Sue ended it like that. But I think overall, like, I actually thought their moments together were actually kind of cute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then she was like, thanks for that condescending tone. I was like, okay, Sue.
Sue's back.
Yeah, she's back. All right. She's back to normal.
You're right, though. It was a cute scene between them
Yeah,
up until
some
that
good
moment.
bonding.
Yeah.
And Quinn asks if she could be back on the Cheerios, and Sue is like, that's not fair to the girls who have been practicing all this time.
Which is totally valid. I was like, yeah, I support that. She's not being like, no, you did this and that and betray me. It was literally like a good reason to be like, no, like you're coming in toward the last half of the year. No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely like an acceptable reason for a teacher to have, which a lot of teachers in this school don't usually have acceptable reasons. So I was impressed.
No. Yeah. And Sue is definitely one of them.
Yeah.
So then Kurt is approaching Blaine, and Blaine is like, I'm working on the song for regionals. It's about inspiration.
Yeah, they're in the auditorium.
Auditorium,
So
yeah.
they're in the auditorium and he says the theme of the regionals is inspiration, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then he sings the song Cough Syrup, right? That's what it's called.
Yeah.
I tried really hard to listen to the lyrics, but obviously the stuff that was happening in the montage was a little hard. How is it an inspirational song? Can anyone explain it?
It's not. Cough Syrup is by my favorite band, Young the Giant, and it is literally about killing yourself.
That's what I thought. I was like, I don't think this is inspirational.
It's like one more spoon of cough syrup now, one more dose of this. It's basically like you're walking through this world of just everyone's trying to get at you and put you down. It's a great song, just maybe not for this moment.
And it's not inspirational, so he's failing. Mm-hmm. And then also I'm like, well, why would you say an inspirational song when you have the montage happening?
Mm-hmm.
Those don't go together at all. Mm-hmm. So there's like a bunch of levels that just
didn't quite match.
Yeah.
They just wanted Blaine to sing Cough Syrup, so...
Yeah.
A beautiful man, yeah.
It's a good cover.
It is a good cover. I do like the cover a lot.
I think this is the first time I've heard this song.
You've listened to this song because I actually made a TikTok about it because Alyssa listens to songs that they cover on Glee, and I just sit there like thinking of the Glee context and don't want to spoil it for her.
Wait, you made a TikTok? Wait, I listened
Not to this
song?
particular song, but this was one of the songs that gave me the idea. Like, you're listening to Cough Syrup, and I was like, oh.
I don't remember. It probably popped up on my Pandora station.
Yeah, it was you're listening to Pandora's and we're moving.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And you hear it and you go, she has no idea.
Yep.
I feel like I'm one of the only people to still use Pandora.
Yeah. You know what? Good for you. You're keeping them alive.
Hey, listen, I prefer like not knowing what's going to come up on my playlist. It makes my life more exciting.
And I think those are the people that are on Pandora. I'm sure there are a lot of people actually who are like, you know what, just pick stuff for me. It's too much pressure because there's so much stuff out there.
And if I find new music listening to Pandora, whereas I wouldn't if I was just listening to everything that I already knew on Spotify.
True.
There.
All right. And that's our PSA for Pandora.
Yep.
Pandora, please sponsor us.
You can't listen to podcasts on Pandora, but...
Oh, wait. Actually,
Yes,
I think
you can. You can.
You can?
Mm-hmm.
I think they added that.
Yeah, it's definitely when they first started, you couldn't, but you can now.
The only reason I know that is because it came up in my suggested apps when I was looking at apps to download for my Apple Watch, which I just got. And it literally was like music and podcasts. I was like, yeah, right. And then I scrolled past it because I remember thinking like, yeah, right.
No, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. When you do social media for this, you gotta @ Pandora so they know that they're featured in this episode.
Yeah, yep. And then they're gonna be like, here's a cease and desist letter. Please stop talking about us.
Yeah. So we're avoiding talking about this montage.
Yeah, that's what's happening.
Yes.
So Karofsky is, while Blaine sings, we see Karofsky go into the locker room at his school, and we see his classmate that saw him at Breadsticks in the Valentine's Day episode with Kurt. And he's like...
Who saw him walk in with a gorilla suit, talk to Kurt, reveal himself as being in the gorilla suit, take off the gorilla suit, sit down, have a conversation in which they kind of hold hands. Let's be very clear that that's probably what he witnessed. Yeah, like that was a lot that he witnessed. Like it wasn't just that he saw, but I don't think Glee recognizes that, which I think is the best part, is that's why I have to remind people, it's like, this is what this kid witnessed, but that does not condone his actions. He's still a fucking asshole.
No.
Yeah, this would be a much brighter show if he was being bullied about the gorilla suit rather than his sexuality. But instead, he writes the F word on his locker in pink.
There's more than one F word.
Context.
The F word that is a gay slur.
Yes, that one.
And everyone's looking at him, and the guy's like, "Oh, such a shame." And Karofsky and he slams Karofsky against the locker, and he's like, "You want to go?" And Karofsky leaves, and everyone's crying, and then he's back at his house. Not everyone's crying.
Like cracking their knuckles.
Crying. Yeah.
Yeah,
they look like
they were
beat
gonna
the shit out of him.
Yeah, like physically assault him.
Yeah. And then he's crying in his room, and he's looking at his laptop, and everyone's like, "You're gay. We hate you."
All over Facebook.
Yeah. It's just like awful stuff, like cyberbullying. And then he throws his laptop. He's lying on his bed, and he looks at the planes hanging, and he gets dressed in his suit.
Wait, question. I missed him throwing his laptop, but I saw him pick up pieces of a CD case. Was that his laptop?
Something shattered for sure. I think maybe they were trying to show that to contemplate him cutting himself or something.
That's what I thought. I thought that was like the CD case was him contemplating cutting himself, and then
other rafters, and
yeah. So he was trying to figure out the way he was going to commit suicide.
Yeah.
Which, when talking about suicide, when I work with my clients, usually there's a plan, right? It's something that they've thought about for a really long time. It's not always as impulsive as this episode is showing it.
Yeah.
Which is one of the frustrating parts of it.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest criticisms, is that it can be, one event that will trigger it, but it's not something that, it's not just a couple things that have built up. It's a long process.
And that's not disregarding anyone that has that spur for the moment, I need to do this either. It's just when we're talking about on a larger scale of let's talk about suicide awareness, this isn't what it looks like. So
I don't know if we've mentioned this yet, but Erika, you are a counselor, right?
Yes, licensed counselor.
Okay, so you have a lot to say.
Yes. I have a lot of experience with this, personally and with my clients, and it's a lot.
And the whole impulsive way they're looking at it is reinforced by the story Mr. Shu tells later.
Oh, yeah.
True.
No, let's stick with this. Let's dive into this. Then we'll have words about that. Because that's, I think, when I first texted you, Cullen, I was like, are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have notes on that too.
Yeah. So Karofsky attempts to hang himself, and it fades to black. Or
we don't actually see that. We see him with a belt and then we see his feet on a chair.
Yeah, we see
And that's it,
him
right?
looking at the rafters, stepping up on the chair. He's got the belt. He's in his suit, which I think one thing that I think stands out to me, not in a good way, but in a realistic way, is that sometimes, you know, it is indicative of people who've planned this a while for them to pull out sort of ceremonious looking clothes and have it be this kind of thing. So I thought it was poignant and realistic, but then there's all this other stuff, so it's very confusing.
There's a whole discussion that dives into like 13 Reasons Why and like portrayals of suicide in media, especially media geared towards teens. But we'll just focus on this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Different podcast on all that. Yeah.
Yeah. So then it cuts to black, and then we see the teachers discussing it. We see Beast, Emma, Principal Figgy Fig, Sue, and Will in Principal Figgin's office, and they're talking about it. And we have to be careful how we address this to the student body. And they're like, Will's like, oh, with Facebook and Tumblr, like there's so much pressure on your reputation these days. And Sue starts crying, and she's like, I was principal when the stuff was going on with him in Porcelain. If I had paid attention, maybe I could have done something. And Figgins is like, it's not our job to know what's going on. And Emma's like, well, then whose job is it?
Right. And then Beast also said something about it being senseless. It's a senseless act.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting, is what I'll call it, talk. A lot of different perspectives, I should say, on what happened. I thought this was an interesting scene because, like, there's a lot of points being made that, like, yes, teachers and educators and counselors are supposed to be looking out for students, but in certain situations, it's hard to do that to the best of their ability. So then Emma's like, well, who really is supposed to be looking out? So it's again, it's interestingly complex, and it doesn't have an answer, which I think is good, because there's no simple answer to it.
Right, sure.
It's one of those scenes where it's like, okay, this works, but then there's other stuff around it.
Yeah, and in the school setting, that's where it needs to be that team effort with teachers and counselors, because they're the eyes of the student body. I know in our high school, Hannah, that was not happening. And fortunately, you know, not a lot of stuff happened. Granted, we were in a smaller school, but it very much could have. And then what, right? Teachers spend most of those students' days with them. And that's why it's so important for teachers to have that mental health education. Especially, I mean, God, Emma, are you kidding me? With all her pamphlets, she's just not sure what to do in this case. What? She doesn't have a pamphlet on this?
No, I guess not. We should take that tenure away from her. We're taking the tenure away from her.
We know how to clean the balls, but we don't know about suicide.
Yep.
Yeah.
I did like this scene.
Because I think Glee often will oversimplify complex issues, and there's no way to simplify something like this. And I think that's a smart and respectable decision on behalf of the show to be like, we have to talk about it, but we don't have an answer.
I was going to say, it leads to further discussion too, but I'm done.
During the scene, did you mention that, like, while Sue was talking, there was the cutaway to when Karofsky's father found him?
Yeah, because she was like, I'm just picturing his dad finding him, and it's so abrupt too, which I thought was a really great way to show it. It's very jarring and very tense. Yeah
that was probably in this scene, like, visually my favorite part, just because it is, like you said, very jarring, intense, and if it's with the conversation.
Figgins also says that it'll induce a string of copycats.
Was that Figgins?
Yeah, which I think is a little bit of an outdated outlook.
Yeah. I mean,
that
just
happened.
from all my mental health training.
That happened at my friend's high school.
Yeah, it can happen. I this is kind of like the abstinence talk, right? If you don't talk about it, then more people are going to do it, right? So if someone does it and there's no talk about it and the consequences, then there's going to be repeats of the of what happened. But if you actually have that talk about what mental health is and what suicide is, and having those resources available to the students, it's not nearly as statistically possible.
Is suicide, like, I don't know how to phrase this question. So like having, what is it called? Like, I guess a chain of suicides. Is that something that happens because of, like, the act itself being in an environment that induces that sort of thing? Like, this is a very sort of crass example, but like when someone yawns in a room, then everybody else starts yawning. Is that even close to what we're talking about, or is that?
I think it depends on the culture. It depends on the environment all these different people are in. It's tough because when you talk to someone that has that suicidal ideation, they've almost always had it. So if someone has that idea of, I'm going to kill myself, they are most likely going to do it. So if you see someone else do it and you already have that ideation inside of you, it's kind of going to justify it and be like, well, they did it. It looks really, it's easier than hurting this much. When in reality, it's not. There's so much more we can do and more to feel better. But in those dark moments, you really can't see any type of light or future. So when you see it happen, you're kind of drawn to it. That's the best explanation. I'm a little tipsy. It's the best explanation I can come up with.
So it depends on the environment, but also the people in the environment.
Yeah.
And so it seems that, like, if, the environment addresses it, if the people in the environment address it with resources, with talking about it openly and, educating and having everyone express feelings about it, that can sort of help alleviate that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Not to throw shade at our alma mater, but when I was at BU, there were multiple suicides on my street. Especially and there were a bunch within my first few days. And it's something like the academic culture was just so rigorous and so competitive in Boston. And the way campuses were laid were so isolating that it was like it's a big problem. So like the culture did play a big role in that situation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's take a breath.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Breathing exercises. You want me to teach you one? What I do for a living is just breathe. So,
isn't it like in 4, pause, out 8, or something?
that's like the nursing one. There's this thing called box breathing, and you imagine a little square because all sides are equal. So you breathe in for a number, you hold it for that same number, breathe out for that number, hold it. I like 4 because 4 sides, right? So you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4. And you can do that and cycle through it, and it reduces your heart rate, brings oxygen back to the brain, and you're able to think a whole lot more clearly. And it's easy to do with a mask on.
Oh, that's a good
tips.
tip. Yeah.
Love this.
It's the easiest one to remember too. So that's why I like to use that one.
Yeah.
I've
Very
tried
nice.
the in for 4, pause out for 8, and I actually don't have enough breath to go for 8 counts.
Yeah.
You're like,
Oops.
Yeah. And practice first to get
Yeah,
there.
really.
I don't have enough lung capacity for this.
Mm.
The 4, 4, and 4. It makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. I also say take a note from smokers and go outside and take a break and do some deep breaths.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Mhm.
yeah.
So
Instead of ruining your lungs, you're helping them.
Not gonna lie, smoking sometimes just looks very relaxing, and I'm like,
oh yeah.
I will never
Yeah.
buy a pack of cigarettes, and I'll never try it because I think I might get hooked.
Whenever
Yeah.
I see that Ben Affleck meme of him outside his doorway with just dragging a cigarette, I'm like, yeah,
Get
that's I need that right now.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, Ben Affleck is this whole meme, and he's obsessed with Dunkin' Donuts, and I'm living for it. I'm like, I am like that, except I've cut the Dunkin' Donuts out of my life pretty much. But yeah, he's just like so grisly, and he's like hovering with munchkins and a bag of food and 4 coffees, and he's like, "Ugh." And then I just picture it was like, oh, he's got that big ass dragon tattoo on his back too, so that makes it better.
It's a phoenix. That's even worse.
Oh, that's right, a phoenix. Yeah. Because he's rising from the ashes. Yeah, really, we are not wanting to talk about this episode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's a hard one.
it is.
Mhm. I do like how Schuster does end up talking about it with the Glee group, though.
The idea is a great idea. That's quality teacher stuff. The
Right.
content, let's talk about it.
Execution leaves something to be desired.
Yeah.
So first we stopped by at the God Squad
Mhm.
with Mercedes, Sam, Joe, and Quinn. And Mercedes is like, I vote we start this meeting by praying for Karofsky. And Quinn is like, we should pray for his family. They need comfort more than he does.
This is such a weird take on prayer,
Mhm.
where I'm like,
Yeah.
you're
I didn't even
limiting
think
yourself
about
to
that,
one
but it
person.
is.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
I have only so many prayer points to give out.
For anyone out there who's wondering, you can pray for as many things as you want.
Yeah.
There's no limit.
I had a professor who said humans have limitless compassion. And I always think of that. Because
Beautiful.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I believe that, but
she would bring that up whenever people would be like, well, what about homeless veterans if you talked about kids in cages, that kind of thing. It's like,
Yeah.
I feel compassion for both of them.
Yeah.
like
There's
yes. I guess that's sort of accurate, but I don't think one person has limitless compassion. I feel like the entirety of humanity together might have limitless compassion. And maybe one person, if you're talking about
Yeah.
Mother Teresa.
Well, even her. I mean,
yeah, she's
look,
Gandhi? How, I mean,
yeah, I might want to do some reading up on Mother
I
Teresa.
don't know.
yeah.
Historical saintly people.
There's someone out there.
Sure. But
My
Quinn has very little compassion for anyone.
Quinn is not the embodiment of this quote. I could see the interesting thing here is I could see where Quinn would be feeling some sort of anger or resentment towards Karofsky, but I don't think she would be able to articulate it in the words that she did.
Glee's going for the thing where they want to touch all the sides of the argument.
Yeah.
And so Quinn, they're not thinking of Quinn as a character. They're thinking of her as a way to voice
Yeah.
the
she's
common phrase
vehicle.
that suicide is selfish.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's just a voice box.
Yeah.
And I mean, in this case, obviously her being a voice box maybe on some level makes sense because so she went through a lot of hard things, and I can see where someone might think that trying to commit suicide would seem like the easy way out, especially if you went through a lot of hard things. I'm not saying that's a correct ideation, but it's an ideation that happens frequently.
Yeah.
You know, so
yeah, I guess the logic is what I'll call it is there, because like she says that, and then Kurt, who is literally lurking the whole time, comes in and like basically like has a rebuttal.
I think they just make her say it in a really mean way.
Yeah, but then she's like, well, like when I got pregnant and all these things happened to me, and he's like, how could you even compare those two things? Which I'm like, yeah, she's really.
Wait, isn't that Quinn's line?
Yeah, Quinn says, if you want to compare, he says what Kurt says is you're saying what we want Kurt to say. How could you even compare suffering?
Right. So
because
who
suffering's
says
different.
it?
Quinn
what
does.
Kurt says is, sure, you got pregnant when you were 16 and you had a bad dye job for a couple of weeks, but the world never stopped loving you. So instead of saying you can't compare your pain, he says your pain wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Right.
Being a pregnant and homeless teen girl, nothing compared to being a white gay man.
Right.
I was a little bit miffed. I'm not gonna lie.
But I think in the context of the fact that like this guy literally like his life was in danger and he literally just tried to commit suicide, I think like it's not a place to be making comparisons. So I think like, so then I guess in general both of them are just like taking the wrong side of being like comparing apples to oranges.
I feel like that the conversation between them where they're comparing each other's suffering, or not each other's, but like Karofsky's and Quinn's, might have been better handled by the writers if an external party was like, you guys can't compare the two. They're not comparable. They're just like in totally separate categories.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had like an outside party to sort of mediate this conversation.
Yeah.
Like maybe Mercedes. She was there. She was in the room. She's always a great mediator.
Yeah.
I was really confused as to why someone asked like, why is he here? And Joe was the one who is like, he asked me if he could be here, and I invited him, and I'm like, why didn't Mercedes, his very good friend, invite him? Like, that doesn't make any sense. He's never talked to Dreads before.
Joe's a brand new person.
He's Jesus, and he brings all the disciples in.
That's true, you're right.
Guys, Jesus, limitless compassion.
Yeah, I mean, he did die for our sins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it did hit a limit. You know, he was hung on a cross.
Yeah, but it wasn't his limit. It was like,
the world's limit. The mortal life's limit.
Yes, it was his body gave out. Like,
yeah.
Kind of.
Okay.
I mean, if you believe he's God, then he's immortal, and it never ended.
Okay, so yes.
This is also a regionals episode, so like what?
We're barely halfway through, like a quarter of the way through.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
it's gonna be a long one.
God Squad, Kurt's lurking, and Kurt's like, I wanted to come here because I had nowhere else to go. Krosky kept calling me and I kept ignoring him, and I only had answered one of those calls. Maybe this wouldn't have happened. And then we have the Finchel scene where Finn and Rachel make up, and Finn's like, I'm not mad at you anymore. And Rachel's like, I don't want to hurt you. That's why I'm not going to perform. And he's like, no, you need to perform.
Wait. How is this loosely related? Is this somehow related to Gorovsky's attempt at suicide?
Yes, because they're like, life's too short. to be mad at each other.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's okay. I get it. So that's why they just like forgave Rachel for the horrible things that she said.
Yes.
They forgave each other. Rachel,
Yeah.
like, what? I mean, other than say, good luck getting into that program you really want to get into.
He stood up for himself, Erika. How dare he?
All right. I forgot this is a relationship. My bad.
Yeah.
And they're like, life's too short to wait for some arbitrary date to start living it. Let's get married now. Well, that's what Rachel says. And Finn is like, I have Jim.
I have Jim.
I laughed out loud. I was like, I mean, he's got a point.
He's a
That's
child.
such a Finn line. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good reminder that he's literally a child.
And she's like, no, let's get married this Saturday after we win regionals. And he's like, what if we lose? And she's like, well, I thought we agreed I'd be singing.
Rolls eyes heavily. Ugh.
So then Sebastian is at the Lima Bean where he lives.
Yeah, I think he does live there.
There's a whole backstory that we don't know about where Sebastian is actually like homeless and living above the Lima Bean and has to travel every day 20,000 miles to get to Dalton.
Yeah, he literally has to travel from the Lima Bean, which is presumably in Lima, Ohio, which is, what did I say, like an hour and 20 minutes away from the Columbus area where Dalton is. No, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And how is he traveling there? By bus, hitchhiking, walking, biking? Who knows?
He's the Flash. He can just run.
True.
You're right. Well
We'll
done.
get there in 2 seconds. Never mind.
Okay, so maybe those are connected universes.
I want them to be so badly. Where were we? Yeah, so then Santana and Brittany and Kurt and Blaine come up. Santana's like, one bitch to another. This blackmail stuff has to stop. And he's like, agreed. I destroyed all the pictures of Finn, and I'm sorry about your eye, Blaine. And Blaine's like, that doesn't mean anything. He's like, it was a stupid prank, gone out of hand. Everything's a game until suddenly it's not. And we get this flashback to Karofsky and Sebastian at Scandals, the gay bar. And,
Keep in mind, they're still underage.
Yep.
Mhm.
And Karofsky's like, how do you get a guy to like you? And Sebastian's like, you're like 100 pounds overweight, and you should stop waxing your eyebrows, and you should just stay in the
It's
closet.
like stay in the closet. And so what's interesting about this, I think we should start mentioning, is that we are seeing flashes of things building up for Karofsky.
Mhm.
That's going to become very important when Mr. Shu has his show circle with the Glee Club.
Yep.
I just
Yeah,
want
It's very different.
It goes into the whole you never know who's hurting too.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You never know who needs to slap Sebastian.
Everybody, that's the answer.
I literally said out loud, he's such a dick when this scene happened.
He was particularly mean, and like, it honestly doesn't matter who you're talking to, especially like a stranger he doesn't know. Like, you can't say shit like that to people. It's just like you just
Yeah.
don't know how damaging that is, even if it's a quote unquote joke.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Sebastian is all like, I was treating life like a big joke, but it's not. And so we're going to dedicate our performance to Karofsky and collect donations for Lady Gaga's Born This Way Foundation. And Kurt's like, just wait for the punch. And he's like, there is none.
Literally, I was thinking exactly what Kurt said.
Mhm.
Because Sebastian has not earned the right to suddenly change his tune.
My question is the audience supposed to believe that this is sincere every single step of the way, that he's like, yeah, we're going to dedicate our performance to him and we want people to donate, and then, you know, in the performance, something else happens. So like, are we supposed to believe that like, oh, this is genuine, like this is the time when he's actually just coming around, even if it's for this short moment? Or are we supposed to be like, what a fucking snake, he's basically like trying to get good brownie points off of this?
Yeah, I mean, he's the jumping ahead a little bit, he's the only group that even mentions anything about charity, and that's a hell of a lot of brownie points with judges. But
yeah, that's what I was wondering. I was like, how is the audience supposed to be looking at this? Like, do they want us to actually think like, oh, he's turning around? Or are we supposed to be like, ugh, what a snake?
Honestly, I think they want you to think that he's turning around because they address that when who was it? Kurt?
Yeah.
Kurt says, "Where's the punch? It's coming." And then he's like, "There isn't one." I think that was the writers trying to address this issue of whether or not we trust him.
It still feels like a snake thing to do.
Yeah. And that's why I said, like, he hasn't earned this turnaround at all. So I'm still suspicious of him, even though I think we're not supposed to be.
Right.
I never trust him in a uniform.
Especially one that nice. I don't think so.
Lasers, man.
So then we get to Will's show circle. We're finally there, where they're all gathered around. He's holding peanut butter with a spoon, and they're like, "Why is there only one spoon?" And Sugar's like, "Yeah, there's 15 of us here. I'm only comfortable sharing a spoon with like half of you."
I just want to say I was like, oh my God, COVID! Don't tell me they're gonna share the peanut butter.
I was thinking mono. This is high school. They already had a mono episode. Never mind. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that could mean it's still going around.
Very true.
Since season 2, that mono's been building up.
Yeah, it's an evolved mono strain.
Oh boy,
Sorry,
do they have a vaccine for it yet?
And so he's like, it's come to my attention that our good friend Rory Flanagan is a peasant and hasn't had peanut butter before.
He says that?
No, but
No.
that's how they treat Rory. Like he's this peasant who lives in a mystical cottage.
Yeah.
He knows what candy bars are, but he's never had peanut butter.
Is peanut butter not a European thing? That's what my question was. Like, do they not have it a lot? It's not super common.
Okay, you know what's not European?
Is it an American thing?
Ranch. Ranch is definitely American.
Yeah,
I
that
think
sounds
peanut butter
like
is
the most
worldwide.
American thing.
I think
pretty sure
peanut butter is like
peanut butter is.
extra expensive over there.
Okay.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because I was like, maybe there's just some inaccessibility that I wonder if the actor had never had peanut butter and the writer was like, oh my God, this is perfect. Like I pictured whoever was doing the dance stuff, Zach Woodley from the Glee Project. I pictured like Damien telling him like, yeah, I've never had peanut butter in his Irish accent, and him being like, what? You've never had peanut butter? He's like, someone get me some peanut butter. And like, then they're like, oh, we have to put that in the show. Rory's never had peanut butter.
Let's give them the most generic kind possible.
Exactly.
I can't.
Yeah, that's 100% what I think happened.
So, okay, so they're having this peanut butter conversation. I went, why is peanut butter a thing? That's what I wrote. I was like, why is peanut butter a thing?
Yeah. So I can't answer that, but I can explain that he's like, because look at this crazy new experience that Rory got to have. And there's going to be so many new exciting experiences in your lives ahead of you. And I want you to think of that if you ever get to a dark place. And Mercedes is like, we all may be dramatic, but we may never think of killing ourselves, which Finn says. So Finn in his scene with Rachel says, I want you to know that no matter what happens, I'll never get to the point where I'll consider killing myself.
Yeah. So I think that it's an interesting idea for him to start the conversation with like, this is like a great small experience that he just had, reminding them that like there's going to be so many other great experiences even when you're in your darkest times. I think that's a great way to start the conversation.
Yeah, there's this really awesome poem. I'm not 100% sure who wrote it. I am terrible at fact checking. I'm so sorry. But she basically, the premise is the premise of it is like, you haven't tried the best spaghetti recipe yet. You haven't walked down the aisle yet. You haven't done this, and this. And it's a poem basically saying, this is why we keep living. And it's a really great premise. What Schuster's doing right here is not wrong. Because this is something where, everyone says like, you got to live for yourself. Well, if in the moment you can't, you find that one thing to live for, whether it's a pet or a plant or a job or whatever it is, until you can find that reason to just keep going for yourself. So this is a really great premise and talking point in general for mental health.
And then it goes.
Yeah.
Because it's revealed, Cullen.
Because Will is like, I thought about killing myself.
And why was that, Cullen? Why? What happened?
Because he was caught cheating on a math test.
He does say it was junior year, right? Or something like that. He's like,
yeah.
It was a hard year. That's what he says, or a tough year, a rough year. I think he said rough year.
Well, it wasn't because he was caught cheating on a math test. It was because his dad was going to be disappointed in him.
Yes. Which is making me think maybe Schuster's the way he is for a reason, and maybe it's because his dad's a dick and hurt him.
Right.
I'm psychoanalyzing this because it doesn't make any sense unless I do that.
Yeah, because it just made me think that, not to compare apples and oranges, but to compare apples and oranges, the plight of what Karofsky went through and then Schuster's story. And I'm like, can we take back every single line in which they said he was a good teacher, please? Can we just burn all of those lines?
It's not even comparing it to oranges. It's comparing apples to literal pieces of shit. That's how I see it. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
If he had been like, this thing happened to me, this thing happened to me, this other thing happened to me, and then this is what got me. Because he says,
like,
there could be, he's like, there could be this one thing that gets you to the edge. Yes, I believe that's true. But you're saying it was a rough year. And then you're like, and I got cheating on a math test and my dad would be so disappointed in me. Not that I'm saying it's not enough, but I think the way it's supposed to work isn't enough. In this episode, the way it's supposed to work, it's not enough.
It's not that we're saying he didn't have a good enough reason. It's that we're saying the writing, the story, the way he wrote it, the story didn't land. It didn't feel genuine. It didn't feel like a real story. Right. And it just felt forced and fake.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually kind of curious from a medical standpoint. Is there like how pain tolerance is on a scale for like physical pain? Is that also a thing for mental and emotional pain?
Yeah.
Okay.
1,000%. Because like let's say we go through something really traumatic. Like you're assaulted or something like that, and it maybe happens more than once, you literally just become numb to it. And our brain has this really crappy but kind of cool way of protecting ourselves and just completely disassociating. So when we feel those really terrible things that, you can consider a trauma, our brain protects us by not feeling it. So we do get that pain threshold emotionally as well.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it, Alyssa. I never really thought about it that way.
Yeah. Same with anxiety. It's kind of like when you're taking a drug and after a while it doesn't affect you nearly as much. Mm-hmm. You have anxiety, it's not going to affect you as much until you have that panic attack. Or with depression, it's not going to hit you until you really hit that drop button. I'm with you, man. Yeah. I took my happy and it was great. It's all objective or subjective.
Subjective.
The word. English major.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a good point, Cullen, is that like we're not saying none of this is a good enough excuse. It really is the execution. Because I think we have enough of Karofsky throughout the show, and even I would say in this episode that we have enough to see how this had built up.
Mhm.
Like I feel like it feels realistic. But
you can
Shu,
sympathize and empathize with him.
Shu, I was like, you fucking dick. That's what I said. I was like, no. Like, I think it really is just that execution. That if he had accurately shown like this thing happened to me, then this thing happened to me, and I was in such a bad place, I decided to cheat, and I got in trouble. This is what put me over the edge. Like, I think that would work. But
that also would have really humanized him.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what I would have loved to see? Because during the time that he's talking about this, we have a little bit of a flashback, but they obviously didn't want to hire someone to play the younger Shu because we never see his face. I would have loved to see the young Shu. It would have humanized him as a teenager and showed us that he's been in sort of the same environment that these kids are in right now. And it would have been really cool to see all of these things build up and actually have the reaction of these emotions playing out on an actor's face. And I think that would have really elevated the scene.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. So then he goes into like, I want everyone to go around and talk about something they're excited for, right? There are some very different responses that I would like to talk about.
Sugar had Sex in the City Part 3.
Which I actually hope doesn't happen. Apparently they're going to like try to work COVID into it. And I'm like, no, if Kim Cattrall's not there, I don't want to see it.
Oh, gosh.
Anyway.
I think hers was probably the most short term.
Yes. Well, long term, because it still hasn't happened.
That is true. It's been a while.
And it's supposedly in production, whatever. Anyway. But I think Sam is one of the first ones to go, and he literally has this genuine response. It's like, I want to earn enough money to buy my parents a house so they never go homeless again. And I'm like, maybe we should be talking about the very serious issues that this student is going through. And then, there's a couple others. And then Satana goes, I can't wait for the day my grandma loves me again. Maybe we should start talking about these issues that they're going through, very serious. And then Mercedes is like, I can't wait to see Rachel Berry's children. And Rory ends on like, oh, I can't wait till we win regionals. And he's got peanut butter in his mouth. And I was like, there's very different responses here. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense.
Well, Tina has a line where she says,
oh yeah, I
just want a song.
Yep.
And in response, everyone laughs. Like, oh, Tina, that's so silly
Tina,
of you.
She's our comedic relief. She gets 3 lines an episode, maybe.
How dare you want like equal representation, you silly girl. Like, that's not for you. You don't get a song. Like, that's what the laughter said to me.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, this feels very much like a high school classroom response to me, where some people are serious about it and some people try and make it a joke because it's something they don't want to talk about, and it's probably they have serious emotions about it, but it's too difficult to talk about in a classroom setting.
Yeah, that's very much like a real high school.
Yeah.
I think
so. That felt real to me.
In
but
a different episode, it would be like, yeah, this makes sense. But in this episode, I'm like, maybe we should pause.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking. Like, it feels like a high school, but it also doesn't quite feel right in the episode. Like, it's not quite. It doesn't quite round out the story here.
Yeah. And believe it or not, there's another show circle in this episode, and it's also pretty bad. So can't wait to talk about that one too.
So now it's time for regionals.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's the exact same way it transitions the episode. It's just like music.
So they talk about regionals as like an idea every episode, right? So
When is it not regionals?
yeah, so like they're always like, oh, we have to do this thing for regionals. Oh, I'm really excited to win regionals. Like Rory's line didn't feel out of place because they do that every single episode, and then bam, we in regionals.
My favorite part, and this could kind of be spoiling it, but everyone's songs, well, except for the madrigals, because I have no idea what they're saying. So let's say David Karofsky tried to commit suicide on like a Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe, whichever. Regionals is on a Saturday. They both, the Warblers and nude erections, came up with numbers that are basically very closely tied to this whole situation in those like however many days.
Can I just point out that several episodes back, we had an entire feud about Michael Jackson and who was going to sing Michael Jackson at regionals?
And then
Give you one guess. Nobody.
yeah, what did they decide? That they said like, oh, you can't get Michael, so we're just gonna let you have him and you're gonna ruin him. But then everyone scrambled to make these different numbers, and I'm like,
no one even sang a Michael Jackson song. Like,
Hannah, you were in choir. How long does it usually take to prep for just a concert?
oh, let's see, a whole like 4 months. It's usually like a whole 9 weeks
Right.
at least.
And they just do all of the show like numbers that could be in the show every day.
And they never land on them until we actually get to the show. We're like, oh, never heard you guys practice that one before. Also haven't heard you do warm-ups since season 1. So
Love the smoke effect though. Great.
yeah, quality.
question. Okay,
Yes.
so we know that this was aired weekly, right?
Mhm.
And they had to have time to do post-production and stuff, but they still needed to film the episodes probably around weekly. So that means
Yes.
that the people performing them actually had to learn this within a week.
Oh yeah. I mean, they probably had, with the exception of one episode, which I think is coming up, they had to do an impromptu episode because of a current event that happened.
Yeah.
But I bet you what happens is they have the choreography. They probably start it toward the beginning of the season. They practice it throughout. But yeah, I mean, they're probably learning these numbers in 2 weeks, I would say. Is, they may have a little bit
And
of
there's
practice.
always last minute changes, always.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Zach Woodley, we saw him in the Glee project. He's a hard ass, so I wouldn't be surprised.
So, kudos to the actors. And,
Oh yeah.
well done. But this
Also-
isn't really what happens in a high school setting.
I also have to give props to the abled actor who plays Artie, because just thinking about having to do the choreography, yeah, I have to mention that. To do the choreography that they're doing, but with the wheelchair, there is definitely something, I guess I'm going to say admirable about it. Challenging. That's a way better word. There's definitely a challenge to it that's interesting that I kind of thought about while I was watching this
Well, he's
episode.
got to be pretty good at using a wheelchair by now.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I mean, he
Yeah,
has to pretend
hopefully.
to be disabled.
Yes.
So yeah. I have a couple things to say about regionals. One of which that Cullen didn't really realize, and I can't wait to show you guys or tell you guys.
So the Warblers sang Stand, and then Finn starts cheering them on, and one of the madrigals is like, "Why are you cheering on your competition?" And he's like, "Life's too short. You should try it." And I'm like,
He literally should have been like, listen, a kid we know just tried to commit suicide. That's kind of what he should have said. Been like, listen, we've all been touched by something this week.
yeah, I hated that little moment.
Mhm.
I wasn't super opposed, but I didn't realize that it was a Madrigal that said that. Like,
You
I
thought
fit-
it was like a Pied Piper.
no, I thought it was
fucking
I thought it was
outfit.
one of the New Directions, but I didn't like. I wasn't looking at the TV, and I just sort of heard it, and like I was like, oh,
Yeah.
who was that? Who said that? And then it never occurred to me that it wasn't one of the New Directions. I wonder if that would have made a difference at all in the
Right,
way that you
that's so
guys
funny.
like interpreted it. Like if it was, for instance, Tina that said
That's
that
funny.
line. Would you appreciate it more?
No, I don't think anyone would have asked, because I feel like this is one of those moments where like they had already come to terms with like, oh yeah, no, we're all on the same side, quote unquote, you know, for what this regionals means. It means, you know, dedicating their time and talent to basically honoring David.
Yeah, I just think suicide is just so tragic and affects people in so many different ways that having it affect everyone by being like, life's too short, let's just be peppier and happier, is just such a weird, oversimplified
Yes.
thing. I don't like it.
Yeah, I agree. It's
But at the same time, people who deal with suicide also deal with it in that way. Like you
That's true.
can't go and say like the way that you're dealing with this thing that happened is not enough. Like
Yeah, it's definitely simplified, but it also kind of goes into the tone of, well, you could just be happy.
Yeah.
It's a little, it is tone deaf, but the way they're doing it in like this high school setting, it's just like, let's celebrate life. Let's celebrate all of this. So it can be taken so many ways, but I think Finn is just like a little golden retriever boy.
Yeah.
He just wants everyone to be smiling and happy.
Now we have two golden retrievers.
Sam's golden retriever status has been stolen by Finn.
He's a Labrador. I don't know.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh,
Finn,
okay.
Yeah, Finn's a Labrador.
lab. Yeah.
He's like a
A
He's
chocolate
a-
lab.
yeah, I was like, he's a chocolate lab. Yeah.
His name would be Hershey.
Oh.
Aww.
Yes, I am all for it. Sam is the golden retriever and Finn is the Hershey lab.
But anyway, back to the Glee. So they sing that song, the Warblers.
Stand. Yeah.
And then, which I have to say, I didn't like that song. But then Sebastian does that weird, like, oh, just remember, we have baskets going around, you know, to donate. And I'm like, oh, like, I can't see this as anything like genuine. It just doesn't
came
seem genuine
across
to me.
as so sleazy.
Yeah.
Because it's
And I'm like,
Sebastian.
I also have to say it. I think it was also the actor. I think the actor, well, I don't know, because if he's already set Sebastian up that way, how hard is it really to like make that come across as genuine when he's Sebastian? So yeah, maybe it's kind of both. But it really was just like hard to read.
I mean, in that situation, he's already a stage presence. Like coming off genuine when you're in the middle of performing probably is really hard.
Yeah, that's true. But then they sing another song.
They sing The Wanted's Glad You Came.
Which is a double entendre for sex.
Yeah.
The sex came. And I was like, I literally texted Cullen, I was like, I think we were talking about something serious, and then I went, they're singing a song about sex. Because I was like, I get where the theme of all these songs, again, except for the Madrigals, I have no idea what they were singing.
She walks in beauty.
I'm
Sure.
not surprised that you know that.
And they're all, you know, in a similar theme, like celebrating life or being, you know, the tone is inspirational, right? Or the theme, I should say. But like, I literally am like, I can't stop thinking about how this song is literally about, like, it's like a rave bop to like grind to, and like That's all I could think about.
I'm not gonna lie.
I did actually like the cover though.
Yeah, I need to mention this really gross head tilt thing he does, like where he's like winking to the crowd, and the flash made me feel so gross. And, I literally went.
Yeah.
Well, also when they were singing like about, okay, what are the lyrics?
The sun goes down, the stars come out, and all that counts as here and now.
Here and now.
The
The universe will never be the same.
I'm glad you came.
I'm glad you came. But what are the lyrics? Like grab a drink, something like that.
Yeah.
And then they do this weird dance move where like grabbing a shot or so, like lifting a shot up, and I'm just like, are you serious? These are high schoolers.
Yeah. But they party. Yeah, it's a mess.
I was definitely singing along though.
I forgot that song existed. And I was like, yes, I remember.
I think we forgot to mention that they're being judged by a vampire.
Oh, I have something to say about that vampire in a bit.
Oh boy.
Yeah, they're being judged by a vampire and then 2 random like civil servants.
His official title is host of the late night horror channel or something like that.
And Puck is like, no, like he can't believe that they got him. I live for those. Like I live for when they had like Tickles with the Clown and Sugar was like, oh, Tickles.
It's so weird.
It's like a throwback to the kookiness of season 1, but we're in season 3, so it feels.
No, it's not
these people aren't
anymore.
recognizable either. They're not recognizable actors, which I think is kind of a bummer because like we had Kathy Griffith, we had Josh Groban, like we had recognizable people.
Yeah.
Olivia Newton-John. So
We have no idea who's under that makeup.
That is true.
that's true.
Although honestly, I think Josh
it could be
Groban,
Daniel Day-Lewis, and we don't even know.
I really want them. If they should have gotten Josh Groban again and just had him underneath all of the makeup.
I would love that if it was Josh Groban as like Tickles the Clown and then he comes back and he's the vampire. I would love that. I want that to happen.
Reoccurring guest as several different people.
But,
that's Gleeboot for sure.
But he's still Josh Groban. He's just like, yeah, and I also like Moonlight as this person. We're like, what? I love that. But I do have to quickly say, so I don't know if anyone heard about this, but they had like a swearing in or an inauguration for Joe Biden's rescue dog. So the place that they adopted him from, they held this digital like inauguration, and they basically like swore him in as, you know, a first dog or whatever. And Josh Groban like basically was like a tribute person there. He like sang a song. He was like I'm so happy to be here. And like I only like listened to the audio of it, but it's really cute. So yeah, Josh Groban, wholesome bean.
So cute.
Yeah. Anyway.
First shelter dog in the White House, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then
Just some politics for you.
Oh boy.
So then the madrigals from Our Lady of Perpetual Sorrow.
Is that a real like?
No,
it's not.
Okay, I didn't think so. Like it sounds like it for sure, but I was like,
the church I grew up in was Our Lady of Perpetual Help. So
yeah, they're mashing up Our Lady of Perpetual Help with Our Lady of Sorrows.
I mean, Our Lady of Perpetual fill in blank pretty much exists as long as it's joyful. But sorrow is not joyful. Pretty sure it's not a thing.
That's. I was like, is that a thing? It can't be a thing. But then I was like, I don't know.
Because there is Our Lady of Sorrows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sad. But
that's like my personal devotion that I do.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I don't know any of the words you just said. Because I am a Methodist, or was a Methodist. I were a Methodist. Words are my job.
Words are-
This wine, very good.
So the Madrigals sing "She Walks in Beauty," and then it
But-
cut.
Like the only person who recognized that was Cullen. So
And the subtitles that I had.
It's a choral song, right?
Yeah.
it very much sounds
it's
like
a
yeah, it sounds like old Latin sung by like a church choir, but like
yeah.
like a Catholic church choir. We're not talking Baptist here. This is very Catholic, or maybe Orthodox.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very structured. Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very beautiful too.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the whole.
So they held on it a long time. I literally thought they were going to go through the whole number until they cut away, and I was like, "Oh my god, that was a long time."
Well, they usually did at least one whole number from all three schools, but they didn't for this one.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think you're right. Or they do like longer snippets.
Mm-hmm.
But I think because it was choral music, I didn't expect it to last that long. And then I was like, oh, it's still happening. Oh, and then it cut away. I was like, oh, okay. I thought we were gonna watch the whole thing.
Oh, did you guys see Finn's face? It cuts to like them watching, and Finn's face is just like so confused. I just was like, oh my gosh, Finn. I laughed out loud. It was the funniest thing I'd seen all episode.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean this episode wasn't that funny.
Yeah.
And it cuts to the choir room where the Glee Club's getting ready, and Puck is like, "Those madrigals were really good," and Brittany's like, "Were you high? I couldn't even hear their instruments." Yeah, and then there's a time for another show circle where Finn has an announcement that him and Rachel are getting married after regionals, and they're all invited, and Rachel's like, "We appreciate all your support, and those who didn't support us, we still appreciate your feedback and would like to see you at the wedding."
So they literally made a show circle, which is supposed to be like all right, guys, we're great, we can do this, bloody blah, and then go. Nope, they made it all about them.
As per usual.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So then they go on and they perform a mashup of Fly and I Believe I Can Fly with a smoke effect.
You okay?
I got so mad when she started singing just a Rihanna song. I was like, Leah Michelle, you very mean person. Like, why would you do that to her? Why would you do that to Rihanna?
And then like also it's like a Rihanna and Nicki Minaj song, and they're like rapping Nicki, and I'm like, ugh.
Gotta be honest, I have not heard either of these songs before.
You have heard I Believe I Can Fly.
Oh yes, yeah, okay.
Okay,
Yes,
I was
have.
like, there's no way that you haven't heard that.
I lied.
I would be like,
have
Alyssa, you
only
need to check your Pandora settings.
I've only heard one of those songs. I thought the mashup was pretty interesting, and I really
That's a word for it.
Hey, I have heard the
But
other
you've
song
never heard it before. Yeah.
What is that? Like, what's the classification for that type music? Is that like hip hop? What is that?
So I Believe I Can Fly would be R&B, and then I guess it would be hip hop pop.
Yeah, rap pop.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's definitely not what I usually listen to, so it wouldn't come up on my playlist like basically at all. But
Right.
I thought
It's a good song though.
Yeah. And it was like an interesting mashup, and I liked their performance of it.
Hot take. I love this number.
I knew you would.
with the smoke effect and their little dance that they just take a few steps and then move.
It's basically, I bet you Blaine choreographed that one. He's like, listen, the Warblers and I, we used to do these steps all the time. And they're like, yeah, you guys are kind of boring. And they're like, yeah, but we're going to add the smoke effect and no one's going to know that we're being boring.
Their entire choreography for this like whole regionals was not great.
I loved the outfits they were wearing. I
didn't love the headbands because you know what? Those headbands are going to dig right in here and that fucker's going to hurt tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The dresses were pretty, though.
Yeah.
I like
Some
the
of their
dresses.
better, like, competition clothes, I guess.
Yeah.
But still very, I don't know. JCPenney's is
Yeah. Yeah, it did feel very, like, you could find that in the prom section.
Yeah.
To me, JCPenney is high class. So.
Oh, well then that's a compliment. So
Yeah. Because I am a peasant.
Have you ever had peanut butter?
For all of you listeners out there, I just looked at Cullen like he was a crazy person.
Because he said he was a peasant, or because he said that JCPenney's was high quality?
High quality, the second.
Got it.
Yeah. I remember when I first walked into like a fancy store and like looked at the prices and it was like, what is
what
this?
fancy store was this? Was it
This was American Eagle.
American Eagle is way overpriced.
It's super overpriced, but it's not fancy.
I just remember reading a price tag and being like, if my children ever want to go to Disney World, they're never going to shop here.
Hey, fun fact. I know what brand names are now, but I didn't used to know what brand names are. Because my parents raised both my brother and I, like, not knowing what brand names were. So I am now able to shop frugally instead of caring about what people think about what I'm wearing.
yeah, our school didn't allow for that.
Oh, our school did. See, here's the interesting thing. We had to wear uniforms because I went to a Catholic school, but you could always tell the people who had money because they had really expensive cars and they had brand name accessories.
Yeah.
They find a way to show it, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I used, like, I knew about like American Eagle and stuff like that when I was a kid. And then at a certain point, I think I just like, I was like, I don't care. Like, I don't want to wear that kind of stuff because my parents are like, we are never going to be able to afford this. And I was like, all right. And then now I shop more about like, do I like it? Do I like it enough for this price? If I don't love it, I'm not going to buy it.
Exactly.
I'll wait 6 months until it goes on sale or it ends up in TJ Maxx for like half price.
Only pay the amount of money that you're willing to pay for something. And I guess
if you don't love it, don't buy it.
Yeah,
if you don't
exactly.
love it, don't buy it.
I suppose like this is one of the subjective things again. If you place more value on the brand name of something than you do on its like actual physical value, then that's up to you. I would suggest being frugal, but then I don't
Bang
have
for
a
your
lot
buck.
of money, so
Yeah. Anyway, and that's the shopping savers corner.
And in other news, I have the I Believe I Can Fly/Fly mashup on my playlist that I listen to when I go running, and I love it.
I do not, and I will not.
I don't run.
That's a great response.
So then they have the Trouble Tones come out because the Trouble Tones are like part of New Directions. So there are these extra women that like are there in the background.
Okay,
They weren't in the original number, which is weird.
Wait,
So
they weren't? They
No.
weren't.
No, they
in
weren't
the
in the
first
first
one?
number. No.
Oh, that's very confusing to me. I thought, first of all, I thought they were in the first one, and then I was super confused as to why it was only women singing the next song. And then, it was not very clear to me that
I was
that
like,
was the Trouble
Why
Tones.
is everyone leaving? And then I was like, oh yeah, the treble tones. Got
I
it.
completely didn't catch on.
Is that illegal?
It seems illegal. It seems illegal, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think they can split up their teams. Like, you don't have to have every single person on stage performing a song because Rachel performs by herself.
Right.
It's true.
Right. No one else does it. Which doesn't make any sense if there's these rules where you could basically just make a super squad and like have however you want it.
I don't think they have rules.
No, there was a rule that like I remember in the past that like you don't have to have every person performing at once, and you only have to have this many people performing the whole team. You have to have this many people, but they don't all have to perform at once. I think that's what I remember from like early seasons. But again, since then they've kind of like, got rid of the rules in general.
I just didn't know who any of those girls were. And I'm just like, who are you? Because I don't trust you.
Honestly, like
you know what?
Yeah.
They're adult women who are shadowing as teenagers. That's what they are. But they sing some Kelly Clarkson.
We love Kelly Clarkson.
Love Kelly. Love her so much. Literally forgot the song existed. But then, like I was listening to the lyrics and it's like, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I'm like, I don't know if that's really the best thing to be singing in an episode about suicide.
It's great for the theme of inspiration, not for the whole premise of the show, though.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yikes.
Yikes. Yeah. Flashback to Bobby's episode. Yikes.
Also, New Directions gets 3 songs instead of
2.
This always
I don't
happens.
know. They get more songs than everybody else.
I think everyone gets 3 songs, but I think we're only shown a certain number. I think that's probably what happens. But yeah, Rachel then sings all by herself.
She sings Here's to Us.
I thought that was a country song. I literally had to look it up because it's like, Rachel singing a country song?
Is it?
But it's not.
It's not.
No,
Okay.
It's a rock song, I guess. I literally looked it up, like, title of the song, genre. And it was like hard rock. And I'm like, sure.
Really? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe if we heard the original, but with Rachel, it just doesn't feel.
Sounds like country to me.
Yeah, it doesn't feel anything. I didn't feel anything. Her dads were fun to watch, though.
Yeah, they were amazed by her. And I'm like, do they not usually go to her performances? They seem like they would go to every performance.
They brought in, like, their own little couch to sit on. I was just like,
did they?
Tickled.
I did not notice that. What?
They were just by themselves on this own little, like, their own little couch thing.
Oh my God, I thought those were extra seats. I didn't notice that.
I'm pretty sure that it was like separate from everything else.
Oh my God, I'm gonna have to go back and look at that. I'm not going to, but I should.
Hey guys, Hannah here again. I did actually go back and watch that little segment where we see Rachel's dad sitting down, and they are actually sitting in what looks like the handicapped seat, because I see a little handicap sticker on the side of it, and the cushions match the seats in front of them where Bert and Carol are sitting. So yeah, it is actually part of the auditorium, but I think it might just be the handicap section. It does look like a couch, though, to Alyssa's credit. All right, back to the show.
Do we know how much Jeff Goldblum was paid to be in this?
That's a great question. I would love to know.
No
it's
idea.
Probably a big chunk of the budget. That's probably why they had to use the same set, because they just had sectionals at this school, and they're like, oh yeah, we have another home field advantage. I'm like, in what world does that happen? No.
I only was clued in that this was their school in the next scene with Quinn.
Oh, and yeah, because she goes to Sue's office again.
Yeah. So then, surprise, surprise, the New Directions win.
Whoa. The vampire is rolled out in a coffin in an episode in which a student tries to commit suicide. I literally texted Cullen, what were they thinking? And he goes, they weren't thinking. And that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can we also please question why every time the third place winner is announced?
They're so excited.
Yes, they're very
Like,
excited.
you literally did the worst you could do. Why are you so excited? Like, they basically gave you a ribbon, be like, you made it here. You guys arrived on time, and you sang on stage. Like, it's a competition prize.
And they're so happy. And I'm just like, okay.
It maketh no sense.
No, it would make more sense if there were more people there, like more groups, but
And what would make
exactly.
more sense is if they say the second place winner is this person, and then they're like, oh my God, yeah, we got second place. That would make sense. And then
Yeah.
it's between them, first and third. That's really how you're supposed to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody on the Glee writer team knows that.
Apparently not.
So then the New Directions win. And then Quinn is called into Sue's office.
This is when I was clued in that it was in fact their school. Because Quinn goes into Sue's office still in her costume.
And she's like, thank you for coming in. Or Sue's like, thank you for coming in. You must be exhausted from singing all those background oohs and ahs.
I was like, wow, that's literally, I bet you Dinah Agron was like, here, I think this is a great line for Sue to say because this is how I feel about my character.
But I wanted to thank you. Like, I used to look up to you admire you thinking you were like a young me. Then I realized I admire you for all the ways you're not like me. And so here's something I wanted you to have. And she hands her a Cheerios uniform in a box.
I'm going to be honest, I don't think Quinn did anything to earn that.
no.
I kind of wish that Sue would have stood by that and would have offered her and like, listen, like you can help me as like an assistant to me or something like that, like not letting her back on the squad.
Yeah.
Well,
Or
how do
auditioners.
Yeah, or make her audition.
Yeah, something where Quinn earns it.
Yeah.
And like not only does Quinn not earn it, but Sue, like we know that she's been having these hormonal urges the entire episode. So it feels kind of like a cop out where Sue only did that because she was feeling hormonal and wanted to be generous.
And I also wonder if like David's situation also made her a bit more soft to a student's struggles and be like, you know what, I'm going to give her what she wants just in case kind of thing.
Right. And she gave her in a UPS uniform. I had to. I'm sorry. She was wearing a UPS uniform and it made me cry the entire time.
Yeah, it was a weird tracksuit. It was not her most attractive color scheme.
Brown and yellow. I like it.
Yeah, so then she's walking by, or Quinn's walking down the hall in her Cheerios uniform, and Blaine's like, oh, looking good for Bray. And then she says, Rachel, how do I look? And she's like, you look really good, and I'm glad you got to be a Cheerio. Like, I'm glad you get to do what makes you happy. And she's like, Quinn's like, Rachel, that song, you were singing it just to Finn, weren't you? You're really in love. He makes you happy. I want to be there and support you at your wedding. And she's like, oh, I'm so happy. And yeah.
Pretty straightforward scene, actually. There's not much wrong with it.
Yeah,
Cool.
I think it works.
So then we have Kurt goes to visit Karofsky at the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
We see the edible arrangement the God Squad said they're going to bring is there. So
Did they talk about that? I totally
Yes.
missed that.
Yeah, it was a super quick scene or line when he was talking to the God Squad originally.
Yep, completely missed it.
But it was there, so there's some continuity for once. And it made
True,
me
yeah.
happy.
Good on that set deck person.
Yeah. And then so Kurt is like, I'm glad you're alive. I'm so sorry I ignored all your calls. And David's like, no, it's okay. As you said, it made your life a living hell. Like, and he's like, it's just so hard. Like, I couldn't deal with what I put you through even for just a day. And he's like, my mom thinks I have a disease that needs to be cured. And my best friend doesn't want to talk to me anymore. And so it's this really sad scene, and Kurt's like, well, Mr. Shu had us imagine things that would be worth living for. So let's imagine like your life in like 10 years. And they close their eyes and like you're like, imagine you're a successful businessman. He's like going to be a sports agent, successful sports agent. And like your partner comes by with your son, you're going to take him to his first football game, and they have this very sweet imagining of what the future could be like.
Yeah, he's like, and you look at your partner and you say, and then Krofsky goes, I'm so happy right now. And he has like tears in his eyes, like in this actual like hospital scene.
I love
yeah, I do too. Like, it's Kurt, fulfilling his promise of being like, because like in the Valentine's Day episode, Krofsky was like, I love you, and Kurt's like, I'm happy to be your friend and support you, and he's fulfilling that promise.
Yeah, we get several moments of closure, where the first one I think is where wow, I can't say his name. Karofsky finally realizes what he put Kurt through. And how that can impact someone. And then also, like you were saying, them becoming friends is another little moment of closure there. I wanted this to be the end of the episode. I like this scene so much that I was ready for cut to black. And I just wanted that to be the end. But unfortunately, that was not.
And if they had successfully made that more of the actual focus and had executed it better, I agree. This would have been a great end to the episode, that like them like the holding hands and being like, I'm going to be here for you kind of thing, I think would have been great.
Yeah.
But instead, it has to be all about Finchel.
I was going to say, they cleaned it all up.
They did. They went and cleaned it up.
So they're at the courthouse. Stu shows up to crash the wedding and offers Will help for regional or nationals, and then
and tells him that she's pregnant.
Yes. And then
and he's like super confused and offers her congratulations, and definitely is like I'm so convinced that this is a hysterical pregnancy. Like, so
Time will tell. Time will tell.
And then Finn is waiting in the hallway, and Rachel comes out in her wedding dress, and they see each other, and they're all like, are you ready? And they're like, let's just remember this moment and how in love we are and how perfect you look. And
question, how did she find a wedding dress in one day?
Literally? Listen, I'm planning a wedding right now.
Yeah.
That's not possible. I've been having like problems with the place where I got my original dress. So I rushed a new dress and I just got it today. And I rushed it, so it was like in 3 days. But still, they said they were going to get married on that Saturday. What, like on Thursday?
around, yeah, sure.
Something like that.
Ew. Wait,
So,
what day were they looking at the wedding magazine at dresses?
No. Who knows? There's no timeline here.
Yeah.
None.
So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking she just had a white dress in her closet and she's just like, or maybe it was supposed to be her reception dress and she's like, I'll just wear the veil. Boom.
Who has a pure white ball gown princess silhouette?
Rachel Berry.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyone would.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, so they're like, I actually kind of thought it was a cute moment.
Puppy
aside
love.
from
It's
yeah. Aside from the fact that it's two teenagers getting married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so question. Are they both 18 then? Right?
They'd have to be.
Well, because that's what I'm saying. I was like, because that's why I'm like, why aren't the parents being like, no, we're not going to let you? But then I'm like, they're both 18, so they can do this.
Well, it could be a different age in Ohio. Do you know?
I'm pretty sure it's 18.
If you're 16, you have to have a parent's consent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, the parents could easily be like, no, you're using reverse psychology. You can't do this. But they don't ever be like, we can just stop this. I think it's because they're both 18.
They have to be then, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I can't wait to talk about this because I love this sequence with the parents.
Yeah, let's talk about the sequence with the parents. The parents are like, we tried reverse psychology, it didn't work. And Jeff Goldblum is like, oh, you want to play the blame game? And Carol's like, no, we just raised two very strong, confident, kind people that, I know my son, and if we had come down hard on him, they would have eloped. But so at least we're here. Mm-hmm. As usual, Carol makes the most sense of it.
Yeah, she has a point.
Yes. But then the sense turns into nonsense, and here's where I'm loving it because, Hiram's like, well, there's literally no way we can do this unless, even Patti LuPone herself couldn't change her mind. And then Leroy goes, but Barbara could. And he goes, but Barbara could. And then Kurt's dad Kurt's like, he's like, who's Barbara? And everyone goes, Streisand. and then Hiram goes, but Babs, she's probably in her underground mall. And he turns to Carol and be like, you know that she has an underground mall where she can just shop. And she's like confused. And then it goes back to like trying to make sense.
Thing? I asked Cullen, does she?
Yes,
did
it
she
is.
actually? She has a personal underground mall.
Yes, and I know, and here's why I know this. I don't remember the context in which I heard this information, but basically I was listening to a podcast and this came up, but she had she made an underground sort of department store because when she was younger, she used to like go on the streets and would look into department stores and would just like love just like the whole aesthetic of it. And then when she became rich enough, she basically made one in her basement so that, she could go and shop there and have that experience whenever she wanted.
So she already owns
without having
everything.
to go out in public.
Just
pretty much.
set
I'm
it
thinking.
up as a store.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't remember how I know this, but I heard it on a podcast.
I wanted the story to be like, I don't know, or to be like, yes, I worked at Barbara Streisand's underground mall.
Yeah, I used to work there. But yeah, I loved this whole sequence, that whole segment. It was gross. It was just great. It was just
okay.
peak.
Did anyone notice? So the entire time they were having this conversation, I kept expecting either Rachel or Finn to like walk up during it and like hear something in the background, and they have someone coming down the stairs in the background of one of the shots, and I was like, it's Finn. It was not Finn, but I was so geared up for it to be Finn.
I never thought about that. I think that would have been a smarter way for this whole thing to end, because I was texting Cullen and I was like, so wait, they're still getting married. What's going to stop them? Because I just kept figuring out like what's going to stop them. That would have been a way more logical thing that
Then
wouldn't
what
have stuffed
actually
a whole
happens?
other message into this very stuffed episode.
Yeah, so they're like, but there's also this line. They're like, we're gonna distract the justice of the peace, and Carol will distract him with her
Yes.
feminine wiles. And Carol just
He like touches his lips with with your feminine wiles, and then they're basically pitching like, we're gonna kidnap Rachel, we're just gonna keep driving, and we're gonna drive to Broadway, and then we're gonna get her back on Professional Dreams. And I was just like, you're gonna kidnap their daughter, oh my god.
Which is not technically kidnapping. Unless you don't have custody
I mean, if
anymore.
they're holding her against her will,
They are going over state lines.
True.
and they're holding her against her will, presumably.
Yeah, but
And she's
parents
18.
hold children against their will all the time. Do you know how many toddlers have like tantrums because they don't want to go in
But
places?
she's not a toddler.
Like, that's
She
true.
acts
She
like
is
a toddler,
18.
and
She is
sometimes
18,
dresses
so
like a
technically,
toddler, but she's 18.
if she was under 18, I would press the idea
It would
of
be
this
just a
not being
family trip.
kidnapping. Yeah, but so she's over 18, then I guess technically it would be kidnapping. Yeah.
I just love when he says feminine wiles, and there's a shot of Carol like, what? Basically. just
Yeah.
like-
She's like, I am a representative's wife now. Also, here's one thing that I don't understand is this would be in the news, like the local news, if Bert's a representative, like people would want to know, be like, oh yeah, their teenager like stepson is getting married to another teenager. Like that would be in the news. That would be a thing.
Ads.
Yeah, yeah, like that would be a thing that like they would be getting shit for.
Oh yeah, they would.
Ohio has made news stories out of much less.
Yes. Yeah, so like they would definitely be getting shit for that. So that would be another reason to be like, no, like you guys cannot go through with this.
That would actually be a pretty interesting storyline if we had like people hounding them.
Yeah.
Paparazzi.
And they would sing
They
Paparazzi
could
by
sing
Lady Gaga.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah. So then we cut to them waiting, and they're like, we have to get married now or we'll lose our slot. And Santana's like, face it, Quinn's not coming. And Rachel's like, she texted me. She just came back. She dropped by home to pick up her bridesmaid's dress. She'll be on her way.
Which I want to point out, it's probably even less likely that all of them would have bridesmaids dresses than Rachel having a wedding dress.
Here's the
Yeah,
thing. They
like,
had already started
none of them.
planning the wedding. And unless she was like, she didn't care as much about what they looked like as how much she looked like. So she was just like, yes, this is the dress. Like they were supposed to be getting married after graduation, right? So they had months out. So maybe they had already decided on them and got them. But yeah, it's still very unlikely, but I think it could be possible.
Why
that she
would
was
Quinn
just
have a
like-
bridesmaid's dress?
She wasn't approving of the wedding.
That's a great
She wouldn't
question.
have one.
It would make more sense if they were all. Why didn't they just wear the dresses that they were wearing for regionals? That would be more like sentimental.
It
Right.
would make way more sense.
Whatever.
Too.
And
Yeah.
this storyline wouldn't have to happen.
Exactly.
There you go. Because then the storyline I know gets weirder and worse. But anyway, let's just get into it. What happens,
Right.
Cullen?
So Quinn is texting as she's driving because Rachel's like, hurry, and Quinn's like, I'm hurrying. And Alyssa's like, every time she looks at her phone, I feel like she's going to get in a car accident. And then she gets in a car accident.
Cut to black.
And then it cuts to black, and then it does the weird doo-doop, doo-doop, doodoop, doodoop. I was like, please don't do that. I get it, you do that in the credits, but like this feels inappropriate.
They did one thing right though in representing Ohio and having a farm tool.
Yep.
Like
I thought that. Yeah, she was
was
like,
accurate.
"Oh, I'm behind a tractor."
road.
Like, yep,
I have been
Yeah.
behind so many tractors so many times in my life.
yep. Or if it was an Amish buggy. Those are the only two
Yeah.
options.
Mine too. So for sure.
Or a construction crew fixing a pothole. Those are the only three options.
There's only 2 seasons in the Midwest. Summer,
Yes.
winter
And-
construction.
And construction
Yes.
season. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Midwest humor.
There we go. Yeah, I was prepared for this to happen before I even knew it happened because it switches back and forth between her and Rachel texting, I want to say 3 times. Probably the rule of 3 is where on the 3rd time she gets hit at a cross section.
Yeah, and she's in VW Bug, which I don't think is known for its safety features, especially in 2012.
Yep.
So
Back when this was made, oh my gosh, I'm old.
this episode came out in 2012.
Oh.
Yeah, this was my senior year of high school. This came out.
Yeah.
I was in college.
So yeah,
by
that's the
then.
episode.
Yeah, that's the episode. We got through it.
Boy, guys,
Yeah, wow.
long episode.
So now it's time for MVPs and LVPs, where we list our favorite and least favorite characters.
Tina time. Tina time.
Time. That was great. We did a great job, guys.
Tina.
One of her lines was, "I want a song."
Yes.
And what?
Wait, she said what at one point?
She had 2 lines.
I think she had 3 lines because there was another line that I don't remember, but it wasn't what, and it was not the other one either.
When Rory said he did, or when they said like Rory's never had peanut butter, she was one of the people like, what? And then she also said, "I want a song."
Yeah,
Those are the only lines I remember.
She had one other line, but I don't remember what it was.
Poor
so
Tina.
3 lines for Tina.
3 lines for Tina.
No
Yay.
songs.
No songs.
And she didn't even get a song. Bummer.
So now it's MVPs and LVPs. So, Erika, who is your least valuable player this episode?
I'm gonna have to go with Schuster, because of his terrible analogy comparing his his blip of a thought to what happened with David.
But he actually walked up to the roof. Right?
Well, also, it looked like it was only 2 stories. You can't do much damage.
I mean, you can do damage. He would have a lot harder life to live, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that really, like,
Poor execution.
it just made me so upset. Everyone made me upset, but that part of it really was just like, it was so good. You were doing so good with just being inspirational and having them look forward to these new things. And then you
had to go and put your own life into it.
you talked more. You talked more. And you shouldn't have. There should have just been a period there. So that was my nip.
I told Cullen he'd be excited for this. My LVP, and I don't know if I've ever given this as an LVP, so this could be monumental. My LVP is Ryan Murphy and the writers of Glee. Because I think this episode is very important, and I will not say otherwise. I think this is important. I think this is a great platform in which to talk about teen suicide and the problems that lead to it. However, I think in a lot of ways it fails. And I even think in 2012 it would have failed. I can't see this having actually been well received. And I didn't look at the critics' reviews, and I might probably look into that. I probably won't. But it really does feel like it fails on a lot of levels, which is a real shame.
I'm gonna actually go with Emma because she is a counselor in a high school and she doesn't know how to deal with teen suicide. And I feel like that is a major how do you say I can't think of
Oversight,
the word.
because
Oversight,
she
but, like-
should have had this training.
Yeah, like
exactly.
I can't think of the word that I
Was
want.
Emma-
Damn it.
Was Emma ever involved in the conversations where Karofsky was bullying Kurt?
No.
I don't think she was. So she should have been involved in those conversations, and she probably would have been able to find the signs of like something else is going on here.
Exactly. So just generally, she's not doing a very good job at her job.
I'm going with Sebastian.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a dick.
We don't even need any explanation. We just like hear his name and we're like, yeah.
Yeah. Smarmy.
Yep, makes sense.
Yeah. So now MVPs.
Can I just for 1 second, I want to mention, like, I feel like the 3 major storylines in this episode should have been split into 3 different episodes.
Oh, yes.
The wedding, regionals,
Oh yeah.
and suicide. Like, definitely not all smashed into one.
Regionals and the wedding, I think, could have gone together. I think that would be interesting if they're competing, if they like decide, oh no, we should move the wedding up now because how perfect it would be, and then they're trying to juggle those things. That could be interesting. Yeah, the teen suicide and the cyberbullying for being gay totally needs its own episode.
Yeah.
Definitely. I was prepared for it to have its own episode, and was blindsided by regionals.
And then it was like, boom.
Like that truck that hit Quinn.
Oh, too soon.
Wow. Okay. I mean, he's not wrong.
Too soon.
Erika, who's your MVP this week?
I have 2.
Ooh.
Rory and his peanut butter, and the vampire judge.
I thought we were going to say the peanut butter was the other MVP.
That's great. Rory, his peanut butter, and the judge. Those just made me smile so big. It was just pure bliss for me.
Yeah, no. I love that. Similarly, I have one that was literally just, the pure bliss. I'm going to give it to Jeff Goldblum's character Hiram. I loved this whole idea he had where like Patty LuPone couldn't do it, but maybe Barbara could. Him and Leroy kind of came up with that, and then he's like, no, we're going to drive to Broadway. And I thought it was great.
Okay, wait. Okay. So those 2 ideas are like together. They were driving her to Broadway so that she could meet Barbara Streisand.
I think so. I think there was something like that. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't understand that those were supposed to be connected.
Well, I don't know if it was necessarily connected. I think it could be, but I think it was like they were like, oh, maybe Barbara could, just in general. And then he was like, but actually what we're going to do is we're going to show her Broadway and remind her of what she really wants.
Interesting.
But I just loved the silliness of and the way Jeff Goldblum acts, and it's so good.
My MVP is going to be Kurt, because when he goes to the hospital, that scene between him and Karofsky is just like really, really touching, and his ability to be compassionate towards Karofsky is like pretty generous, really. I mean,
yeah.
For the experience that he's had with this person, like he's being very, very generous in his compassion. So kudos, Kurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going with Carol. I loved her interactions in that scene. She seemed very level-headed. Yeah, and other than that, like everyone else was just kind of all on like I liked Kurt a lot in this episode, and everyone else was just kind of all on an equal playing field, except for like Sebastian and then kind of Quinn were kind of
yeah. But you know what? The show got her back for having such a rude opinion about Karofsky. They got her hit by a truck. You know?
God, I mean, Ryan Murphy punished her.
Yeah, good job. God, that's so awful. Poor Quinn. Quinn deserves way better. Like, she deserves better writing than all of this.
Mm-hmm.
She had a baby in the first season. Like,
The first scene.
yeah, in the very first scene we see her. In the first season, like, she could have been such a better character, and they just trashed her.
They did.
Yeah. So now it's time to talk about the songs. So we have Cough Syrup, Stand, Glad You Came, Fly / I Believe You Can Fly, Stronger, Here's to Us, and if you want to count it, She Walks in Beauty. So, Erika, what was your least favorite song?
You're going to be so mad at me. It was the Fly, I Believe I Can Fly mashup. I hated it.
That's going to be a second for me, but mine was the first Warblers song they did, Stand. I did not like that at all. It felt disingenuous in general, but I also just like didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also going to go with Stand. I was almost going to go with Cough Syrup, but that's actually more in my wheelhouse than Stand. Like, I don't think Stand would ever come up on a playlist, but obviously Cough Syrup has, even though I don't remember it. Yeah, Stand was just like, honestly, I was expecting a Michael song, so I was very disappointed in their entire set. But
Yeah.
Stand was the worst of their set, and I was not a fan.
I'm going with Stand too. It didn't get me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Erika, what was your favorite song?
I loved Cough Syrup, but that's my favorite band. So I had
It's a
to.
really good cover, though. So I get ya.
Such a good cover.
Yeah. Again, doesn't seem inspirational, so it fails on that aspect, but that's a story thing. Yeah, no, that's also a second for me because I think Glee was my first introduction to Young the Giant and this song specifically because of Darren. But I'm gonna say Stronger because I love Kelly Clarkson. And I did like a lot of the harmonies that the treble tones did for that song. And Mercedes and Santana sounded so, so good. I'm going with Stronger.
Okay, what's the other one the Warblers did?
Glad You Came.
Yes, Glad You Came. I like that song in general. Not a fan of it in this context, with high schoolers singing it and having the double entendre and stuff. But just in general, it's a good song and it's a good cover. So it was just fun.
I'm going with Fly / I Believe You Can Fly. Love that mashup. Yeah.
Very nice. Oh, hi, Suki.
So that's the end of our episode. Yeah. Erika, are there any social medias you'd like to plug?
Well, no, because I'm private because I'm a counselor. I do have my dog's Instagram at 2dogs_5 legs.
Yes.
I have 2 dogs and altogether they make up 5 legs. I also want to shout out to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. It's a 24/7 service, absolutely free for English and Spanish. And then there's a crisis text line. You text home to 741-741, and that's also free and 24/7. And if you need a counselor or anything like that, those hotlines are awesome for that. If you have insurance, call your insurance provider and they can give you a list of people that take your insurance. Or if you don't have insurance, there's a lot of community mental health places that will do free services or at least reduced prices. So it's accessible for everyone.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll have all of the information included. Yeah, so you can find Gleeboot at Gleeboot Pod on Instagram, Twitter, and also TikTok. And then you can also find us on Tumblr, gleebootpod.tumblr.com.
You can follow me on YouTube at yaboyryan, Y-A-B-O-I Ryan, and on Instagram at TikTok at yaboyryan99.
I don't feel like sharing my social media this week. So you're going to have to listen to the next episode or the previous episode to get my social media.
Ooh.
Okay.
Wow. She's like, I don't feel like spelling my last name today.
Pretty much. It's a mystery.
So Erika, thank you so much for coming on. We hope you had fun.
Yes.
I had so much fun. This was great. Thank you. Thank you for letting me make bad jokes.
Yeah, thank you for bringing your professional expertise because, this episode was a doozy, and having your professional expertise on here was amazing. So we really, really appreciate it.
You were great.
Thank you. I make it all up as I go. So thank you.
All right. Well, tune in next week, guys. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.